I will play Sunforger, equip the Sunforger, unequip the Sunforger, equip Sunforger, unequip Sunforger, re-equip Sunforger, equip the Sunforger, unequip Sunforger.
I have the transcript of the game right here. Josh, equip Sunforger, unequip Sunforger, equip Sunforger, unequip Sunforger, equip Sunforger. Has he literally done anything else this entire game?
Sunforger, arguably one of the best equipment in the game behind legends like Umezawa's Jite, Skull Clamp, and the Sword Cycle, the former two having been banned in Magic's premier Eternal format. Wizards have a track record of not really knowing what they're doing when it comes to creating new card types. Look at Planeswalkers for example. While sure, the lore and 5 are not overpowered by any means, they made one of the most busted Planeswalkers in the game the very next block, that being Jace the Mind Sculptor, but we all know that story. You want another example? Look no further than vehicles. With the premiere of this new artifact type came Smuggler's Copter, a card so good it was basically played in every single deck in that standard format before being one of the first cards banned in standard in over 6 years. So, what does this have to do with equipment, you may ask? Well, Ravnica's City of Guilds was the first block printed after equipment became a thing in the Mirrodin block. Sneaking below would soon be busted cards like Golgari Grave Troll, the entire Dredge mechanic, and the first lands with 2 basic land types since the original duels sat a pretty little equipment in the Boros colors. At first glance, this equipment seemed rather lackluster. Having to pay a 3 mana investment just to cast the thing, then paying 5 mana to get a 4 mana spell out of your deck, that had to be an instant and in one of 2 specific colors, seemed rather weak. However, Mike Flores of Star City Games thought differently. On the exact release date of the fall set, he published an article on StarCityGames.com titled Investigating Sunforger. In the article, he brews around the new wacky equipment. Only running 1 copy in the deck, but running 4 of Godo Bandit Warlord in order to fetch it up. Yeah, this deck kinda sucked. Having basically 5 Sunforgers in the deck and having only 4 different cards you can fetch up with it. Those cards being the 4 of Lightning Helix in the deck, the basically Fog or Unblockability of Master Warcraft, Char, and a 4 mana Naturalize for Sunforger's purpose. Needless to say, the deck didn't really take off. So, where am I all going with this equipment thing? The point is, the first few cards of a card type are generally more overpowered than the rest because Wizards doesn't really know how to balance it. While true, Sunforger isn't some stupidly busted thing like Skull Clamp or Umezawa's Jite, it is still really powerful in the right format, and that's where Commander comes along. Commander, being created 6 years after the Sunforger's printing, is a format basically suited for Sunforger's use. Why? There's a few good reasons. The first one is being that the 3 mana it costs to cast isn't that big of a detriment in EDH when the games can last 10 to 15 turns. In a faster, more cutthroat format like Standard or even Modern, wasting your turn 3 to cast a do-nothing artifact is almost suicidal. The second reason is that because games typically go longer, you have the opportunity to fetch up more spells with it, and getting more use out of your Sunforger. And the third and probably the biggest reason is that you only have 1 copy of every card in your EDH decks. This makes Sunforger essentially a tutor for 10 plus cards over the course of the game, turn after turn after turn, for only a possible -1 mana at most times. So, now that you know all about Sunforger, you may be wondering, what cards go well with it and why would you play it in the first place? Sunforger may be the card that salvages Boros in EDH. If you want to make a Boros deck and have it not be terrible, you either need to be playing Feather or include Sunforger. Probably both, honestly. These cards that I'm about to list off are basically staples that you should consider in any Sunforger deck, and to an extent, any Boros deck. But first, this. Mistveil Plains is a card you must include in any single deck that plays Sunforger. Getting to put any Sunforger spell back on the bottom of your library to use over and over again can be extremely powerful, and in some cases even oppressive. Now, onto the real cards. The following cards I'm about to list should be considerations in any deck with Sunforger. The first and foremost one is Teferi's Protection. This card is $40 for a reason. Letting you survive basically anything, Sunforger can get it out of your deck whenever you need it. If you can afford the price tag, you should definitely pick it up. Boros Charm is a decent impression of Teferi's Protection. You'll mostly be using it to give your permanents indestructible, but sometimes it is useful to give your commander double strike or deal that last 4 damage to an opponent. Return to Dust is a very good card in basically any scenario. What you may not know about it is, its interaction with Sunforger is that if you unequip Sunforger in your main phase, you still get that sweet 2-for-1. Settle the Wreckage. I am absolutely in love with this card in Commander. If your opponents know you have Settle the Wreckage in your deck, and you have a Sunforger activation up, they won't dare Alpha Strike you. Any Fork variant's also great. Fork, Wild Ricochet, Reverberate, and you can even pay the buyback cost on Reiterate if you want to. If you're in a combat-based deck, Chance for Glory and Final Fortune are great extra turn options. Lastly, Removal. The standard Path, Swords, Chaos Warp, and Crib Swap are great options, and Unexpectedly Absent is basically a 2-mana Totally Lost. While Sunforger is certainly powerful in Boros, Sunforger is at its most powerful when combined with the cards in the Sultai colors. Mardu is probably the best example. While white is a great color for removal, Orzhov has probably the best removal in EDH, and the best ones can all be fetched up by, you guessed it, Sunforger. Look no further than Anguished Unmaking, Utterend, and D-Spark to hit any permanent you want from anywhere in your deck, all with Sunforger. Do you need to destroy an artifact, nuke a graveyard, or kill a Locust God player who just got a little bit too greedy? Well then just Sunforger for a Rakdos Charm. One could also argue Sunforger is most powerful in the likes of a Jeskai deck, where it can fetch up counterspells such as Counterflux, Render Silent, Dovin's Veto, or even Swerve if your opponent is trying to destroy one of your permanents. Hey, even Naya has some uses. My favorite being Eladamri's Call to tutor a creature at instant speed on of your opponent's end step, or a Congregation at Dawn if your deck wants that kind of spell. You can also grab Naya Charm to tap down your opponent's team for a full swing, and Mercy Killing if you really need the indestructible creature gone. If you want to go into 4 or 5 colors, I don't think Sunforger is needed that badly because you will have more options to go with, but you could always use a card like Ready and Willing. In conclusion, Sunforger is one hell of a Magic card. If you want to find your own cards to use with Sunforger, that's great, but you need to remember a few things. 1, the cards have to be either red or white, and they have to be instants. You also need a creature to equip Sunforger, so don't be playing Sunforger in any very Planeswalker heavy control deck. You can pay additional costs like buyback or kicker, you must pay additional Thalia like tax effects, and you cannot pay alternative costs like Overload. Oh, and one last thing. If you're thinking about including a card for a Sunforger package, only include the card if you think that you'd want to cast that card if you don't have Sunforger out. If you find any other cool Sunforger targets, leave them in the comments below. I want to read them and hear all about your guys' cool findings. And as always, be sure to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.